What's up, beautiful family? It's your girl, Dr. Shonna, and I'm here with yet again another live broadcast. I'm going to give you guys some time to come into the chat room. And when you get inside the chat room, make sure you know to share the video. I'm going to keep it very, very clean to the best of my ability. And I'm going to make sure I give the shout outs to the people who I see and engage with that should be given a shout out, right? If I don't get to you, don't take it personal, right? I know some of y'all be taking things personal. You shouldn't. I'm just texting the people that need to be on. Some of my moderators that are like, Ace Boon Coon with me, I need to text them. So listen, guys, we have a really heavy topic today. So those of you guys who know me, know you should have a pen and paper because I'm gonna give you some things to really think about with respects to the shooting that happened in Virginia. I want to give a fat shout out to my partner, Officer Stedman, who has helped me gather the research on this um, case and the strategies that he wants you guys all to know on how you can go about better protecting yourself. Not that everything is going to be fail proof or guaranteed, but he wants me to go over some strategies with you guys. So I will do that at the end of the video. And also a fat shout out to RJ and he's in the room somewhere. I don't know what he wants me to put his name as. I'm just going to say, I don't know how he's going to be in the room. When I see his name, I'll ask him how does he want me to introduce him. But he works with me diligently to bring you guys these stories. So without further ado, if you are on Facebook, I want you all to share the video. I want you all to subscribe to the page and give me a thumbs up. And most importantly, engage in the chat. If you are on Facebook, I want the same thing of you. Share the video, respond with the reactions, and most importantly, engage in the chat. This is so important because if you guys don't do it, I get shadow banned because I don't have the nicest channel in the world. So let's talk about this shooting. I don't know if any of you guys know that a shooting happened. I believe it was, let me see when it was. I have my notes to keep me on track, y'all. On November 22nd in Chesapeake, Virginia. If anybody's in Virginia in the Chesapeake area, just shout out to you all. My prayers goes out to your community, and I hope your family is safe. Okay, so Yusuf said just call him Yusuf. I want to be very cautious about people's names, but Yusuf is in the chat. Yusuf is somebody who helps me a lot, and you'll be seeing or hearing from him a lot more. So I thank you so much for your love and your support, Yusuf. So shout out to everybody in Virginia, whoever's giving me shout outs about my hair. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Here's what I'm going to say. When I first got wind of the shooter or the shooting that happened in Walmart, I got curious like everybody else. Another mass shooting. Who's the shooter? What happened? What do we need to know? But I wasn't necessarily going to cover this case. I just had those thoughts in my mind. And I came home, and Officer Stedman and I were talking about it. And when we started to watch the videos together, we looked directly at each other. He was like, "You got to go live about this." So here I am because there's so, I had to take notes for this, y'all. Do y'all hear me? I had to take notes for this video because there's so much for Mental Health Fridays for me to uncover. Y'all know today is Friday. I'm on time. Shout out to Yusuf, Officer Stedman, and RJ who kept me on point today because y'all know I can get lost in the sauce and I won't come on live. But this was the topic that I couldn't miss. I could not miss this topic for Mental Health Fridays. Those of you guys who are new here, Mental Health Fridays is where I come in. I unpack a situation that's happening in the community and I talk about it. And I give you guys some understanding of how to look at this from a mental health perspective because I am a clinical scholar and that's what I do. But I also practice psychotherapy. I work with couples. I'm here to keep families together, whether you're married, dating, whatever the case is. I do with relationships. So all of this stuff, all that I talk about, it all falls into the relationship that we have with each other as a community. So if you're new to Mental Health Fridays, I say thank you for coming. I say welcome. I say get your pen and paper and be respectful in the chat because my moderators will be blocking people today. Sometimes I don't block y'all, but today we will be blocking people because this is a serious, serious topic. On November 22nd, there was a shooting that occurred in a Walmart in Chesapeake, Virginia. it's so interesting that this shooting occurred the way it occurred, because the way it came out initially, before I started to unpack it, it seemed like somebody went crazy in Walmart again, because Walmart has a whole bunch of crazy people. And I know a lot of people are not going to like the word crazy. So just, if you're going to watch this channel, try not to bring your politically correct statements in here. Try to just flow with it. If it hurts your ears, just log off, right? Because I'm here to tell my truth and how I see things on YouTube. I'm here to do that. And we know that in Walmart, a lot of crazy things go down in Walmart. Walmart is one of those establishments that whenever I go into a Walmart, whenever I go into any establishment, but especially a Walmart, I don't know about y'all, but I can talk about me. I'll be on guard, because the most nuttiest things happen in Walmart. And a lot of the people, including, with all due respect, including some of the staff, they're just not right. I'm just telling you how I see it. So when I heard about this story, I was like, oh God, another Walmart incident. What is happening with Walmart? And then I clicked on it, and I see 6 people dead, and they killed on November 22nd, right before the holiday. It was a 16-year-old who was unnamed, a 22-year-old by the name of Tanika Johnson. May her family find peace in this time of need. A 38-year-old named Brian Pendleton. May his family find peace in this time of need. A 43-year-old named Lorenzo Gamble. May his family find peace in this time of need. 52-year-old Kelly Powell. May her family find peace. And 70-year-old Randy Blevins. And may his family find peace. These people were all killed. 6 of them. But they weren't shopping, family. They weren't walking around shopping. They were employees. So I said, oh, employees. By who? An employee? What do you know? The alleged shooter is Andre Bing. He's a 31-year-old team lead, which is some form of supervisor slash manager in Walmart. He has been working at Walmart since he was roughly 19 years old. Since 2010, he's been working there. He was promoted to a manager position, a managerial position. Allegedly, he was known to complain about the change in employment statuses, and he allegedly had a manifesto with some targets that he named that he had intentions on hurting. The morning of, he purchased a 9mm handgun legally, not illegally, right? So they'll have us all believe that many of these handguns, which some of them are, but they're being purchased illegally. We have to get these people that sell guns illegally off the street, blah, blah, blah. But he went into the store. He purchased a handgun, a 9mm, and that night for the 10 o'clock shift, he goes into work. This man had no criminal history. He came into work during the shift change at 10 o'clock, and he went into the break room and shot up these 6 people and injured 3 others. So I sat back, and I asked the question, who is the shooter? What was going on with him? If he was an employee, disgruntled, I wonder who the shooter was. So now y'all know, some of y'all in the family. I know not everyone is in the family. Sometimes we have guests, right? But for y'all in the family, y'all know when I'm saying who is the shooter. Come on, this is Mental Health Fridays. Y'all know 9 out of 10 times in this community what we automatically think about. Now I have to be nice on YouTube. I gotta play by the YouTube rules. But you all know, in this community, we start to think that. But I've learned not to jump to conclusions. I've learned to sit back, watch, and wait for the news to report so I can get to digging. And sure enough, the news came back. Andre Bing, the shooter of Melanin, the shooter. Now, the reason why I bring this up, because this shooting isn't a white or black thing. This shooting is clearly a mental health thing. But I bring it up because, family, come on, we're going to talk honestly, right? I bring it up because I notice a lot of our discussions, we automatically, a lot of us, not all of us, in our community, we automatically assume that someone who's going to do something egregious as that can't possibly be of the community. Because for some reason, some of us believe we don't do things like that. Come on now, y'all not gonna leave me here in the chat. Come on, we are live on Mental Health Fridays. Don't try to act like we don't think like that, family. Y'all too quiet in the chat. Too quiet in the chat. All right, y'all want to ask me questions about did he get the jab? I don't know if he got the jab. Y'all too quiet in the chat because y'all know a lot of us think like that. We automatically assume the shooter is someone else. But something else is going on here, y'all. And I keep going over and over and over again with the mental health quality of our community. I keep talking about it over and over again. I keep saying over and over again, we have to step away from these boxes, because the truth is, none of us are safe. The truth is, this is going to cross all types of lines, racial lines, socioeconomic lines, community lines, demographic lines, gender lines. It's going to sexual orientation lines. It's going to cross all types of lines. But if we keep holding in our head false beliefs or untruths, we're not going to be protected. We're not going to be on point. We're not going to be on guard. We're going to continue to diminish the things we have to start highlighting in our community. I want you to know that in this video, I'm going to talk about boom, 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 4 things. Let me break it down because I want y'all to stay on point and know what's about to come. I'm going to be talking about the interview between the news anchor man and the news anchor woman. 2 different news channels. I'm going to point out some really important things I need to highlight for you all because y'all need to really know about these things. And then many of you guys are going to grasp this easily because we talk about this all the time. I'm going to point out the 2 different videos from one survivor who happens to be a melanin female, and I'm going to talk about another survivor who was a non-melanated female. And I'm going to converse about how their stories are the same in terms of the trauma responses. We're going to talk about trauma today. So how their stories are the same, but the affect is different. Ooh, I'm going to point this out for a reason because there's something happening that has been happening in our community generationally. It's been occurring for a long time. And these 2 videos I'm going to show you is going to do a beautiful thing of highlighting right there on the screen for you. Right there on the screen is going to highlight the differences in trauma responses, as well as the treatment. The 2 different females received from the people who were interviewing them. We're going to talk about that. So let's talk about these survivors before I get in. Let's go ahead and watch the video. So I already told you, I told you what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the news anchor man and the news anchor woman. I'm going to talk about the melanated female survivor. I'm going to talk about the non-melanated female survivor. And I'm going to talk about the shooter. I'm going to give y'all a little bit more information regarding the shooter. So right now, let me just go ahead and cue my video up. And I am going to show you guys 2 different clips, small little versions of them. Y'all can watch them on your own because they're like 7 and 9 minutes. I'm going to show you small little versions of it. But I want y'all to pay attention to what I just said. We're talking about trauma here. I want y'all to pay close attention, and then we're going to get into the discussion. So give me a second, family. Let me just go ahead and get this sucker queued up. Okay, I'm going to share this video. All right, so let's go with this one first.
Our next guest is an eyewitness to the deadly shooting inside that Walmart. She says she worked alongside the shooter one day before the tragedy and was inside of that break room when the suspect opened fire. Her name is Breonna Tyler. She's only been a Walmart employee. She sells for a couple of months, and she joins us now live from her home. Breonna, thank you for taking the time for being with us. How are you? How are you doing today?
I'm still processing things. I can't get the visual out of my head, but I'm okay physically, of course, but just mentally and emotionally, it's definitely a lot to take in. It definitely is a lot, but I'll be okay.
I'm glad to hear that. Being able to focus on that, I can't imagine. So tell us about those moments. You said processing it. What are you processing?
Well, I was literally just getting to work. Our shift is from 10 to 7, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. I got there a few minutes late. About 10:06 is when I clocked in on my phone. I walked to the break room like normal. That's where we have our nightly meeting of where everyone's going to be, stocking their particular section. And, I'm just standing there. There were a few things that seemed like off to me about that whole night that they stick out to me more to me now that situation has happened. Like just different things, like the maintenance man, who actually the first person to end up getting hit. He actually went around the entire room and gave everyone trash bags, which he doesn't normally does. So that stuck out to me. And then like when I walked in the room, something in me told me not to sit down. I don't know exactly what it was, but something just said, just stand up, just stand up. And I just stood up the entire time. And as soon as the team lead said he was about to get the meeting started, he said, "All right, guys, we have a really light night tonight." And as soon as he said that, the supervisor, the manager, just came around the corner and literally just opened fire and just started swaying his arm back and forth. He didn't have a target. He didn't, he wasn't aiming for anybody specifically. He literally was just shooting across the entire break room.
It's terrifying. I mean, that just sounds unimaginable. And how did you keep yourself safe? You just hit the deck? Did you run?
I honestly, at first I froze because I thought I was in like a simulation. It felt fake in the very moment, because I'm literally looking at this man and I see the smoke leaving the gun, but it's just not registering to me because I think it was the fact that I recognized his face. If it was someone that I had never seen before, then I feel like it would have been realer in that moment. But the fact that this is somebody that I worked with and I talked to and I was next to every day, it was just like, this can't be real. And so I saw all of my coworkers diving onto the floor, and I'm just looking around like, what's going on? And then once I saw blood, I was like, oh, this is really real. And then that's when it processed that, like, you have to run or you're gonna die. And then I just booked it through the store, and all I kept saying was, don't trip, don't fall, don't look back, just run. And that's exactly what I did. I just ran straight for the front door.
Cannot imagine what you went through. Tell us, if you can, a little bit about the supervisor, about the shooter. You said you felt uneasy.
So let me stop there for just a second. Because I want you guys to note what you're hearing. She's describing her account of the incident. She's letting you know that when she first heard it, she didn't know it was real or not. She saw the smoke coming from the gun. She saw people diving on the floor. It wasn't until she saw the blood that she realized this is real, and she got into, boom, survival mode. I need to run to get out of here or I'm going to die. And once you start running, keep running. Don't look back. Don't stop. Just keep going. That's what she told herself. I'm going to fast forward this video toward the end. So I want you to pay attention to that. Right now, she's just talking about the gunman. And just to give you an idea of what she said, I'm not going to play this part. I'm going to talk about it, but I'm not going to play this part. She communicated that he was one of those managers or supervisor that, you know how we do it, especially us, right? We know how we do. We let people know what's up, what's the scoop, who to stay away from. Don't talk to this person. Mind your business. This person's going to be a little bit nutty. This person's going to be on your ass, riding you. You know how we get. And that's exactly what was happening. She was just basically saying she started a couple of months ago. And when she first started, people were giving her the rundown of the different supervisors or managers. And the shooter was one of those managers that she was told just to watch out for, because he always has a problem or an issue with everybody. So she said she took a mental note of that, and that was that. All right. So let me go ahead to the end of the video, and I'm going to play some more, and then I'm going to give you guys the other woman. And I want y'all to really pay attention to the difference between the two. It's a big difference between the two.
He said it was a handgun that he was using.
You don't talk to him unless you have to. Like, I've never once had like a joyous, fun conversation with him. It was always about work, and that was it. So whereas with everybody else, a lot of people, they laugh, they joke. I have other supervisors that I can, talk to casually. But with him, it was always just like a straight shot. Okay, this is what we're doing. This is what it is. So he wasn't like the fun, bubbly type of person. So I can't really say anything about him other than everybody just about had a trivial issue with him at one point. But nobody, I don't think anybody could have ever guessed that he would take it to this extent.
In this moment, it's a terrifying situation. I mean, have you learned? I mean, it's early, but have you learned something about yourself and about life, or is that just a ridiculous question?
No, not ridiculous at all. I would honestly say, even though it is still early, I know that I'm handling it, and I know it's going to set in more, but I know that I'm handling this a lot better than most people. So I would just say it's definitely taught me how strong I am, and just to really live life to the fullest. Like, I'm 28 and I have a 4-year-old son, and that seeing my life flash before my eyes, I feel like it definitely taught me that life can literally be taken from you at the blink of an eye. Like, you can be doing something as innocently as trying to go to work, and your life can get taken from you that fast. So I would just say, just reach out to the ones you love, keep an open relationship with them, do your best, like, just be a good person, because at the end of the day, you genuinely never know when you will look your child or your mother in their eyes again.
Amen to that. Breonna Tyler, we want to thank you very much.
Okay. So you see that. You see this, y'all. She gives a nice account. She's well-spoken, is very detailed, descriptive. Excellent. I'm going to talk about the issue that I had. I understand why she went there, right? But I'm going to give you guys some feedback too, because you're never going to know when there's going to be a news reporter speaking to you. You never know where there's going to be a camera in front of your face, and putting you on the spot of something traumatic that happened from inside of a business that is a part of a large corporation. Y'all get what I'm saying, right? Right. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But I want you guys just to note her demeanor. Because there's no particular way trauma looks. Trauma looks differently for everybody. But I want you all just to note her demeanor. I want you all just to note her comments of being strong, and that she's going to be okay. Like somebody said, not the well-spoken comment. Yeah, I did make the well-spoken comment for a reason, because I'm about to show you another video for a reason. Because we know, see, listen, when I make those kind of comments, Brita, and I'm going to put up there, and just so I can know, leave Brita up there so y'all can know what I'm talking about. When I make those kind of comments, Brita, I'm speaking of a narrative. I'm speaking of a narrative that the others talk about when they speak to us. They expect something from us. And if you listen to this news reporters or this news anchor man, if you listen to the way he went about his questioning and how he was going about it, and what I'm about to say after I show you the next video, you'll be able to see what I'm speaking about, okay? So Brita said, oh, I know. You already know, right? Because sometimes when they put us on the news, they be doing ridiculous things. So you can never trust the news. You can never trust the news. You know why they put him on this? He didn't get that out of her, right? It wasn't hard to follow her. It wasn't no good God, oh Lord, is a fire. There was none of that crazy nonsense that they put in the news, usually when they show us, right? But he happened to try to see how she was processing this information. How was this information hitting her? And her response was, I'm strong. I want you just to hold on that for a second. Hold on that just for a second. She said, I'm strong. It hasn't really hit me yet, but I'm sure I'll be okay. Family, before I get into the other girl, I don't never want y'all to say that. I do not ever, 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 and I'm going to say it one last time, ever hear any of you guys say that, especially not on camera, especially not after a large tragedy that occurred at a major corporation who doesn't give two flying you know what about their employees. I don't ever want to hear you guys get on television and say that you're strong and you're going to be okay. After you saw dead bodies in front of you, after you saw blood, after you saw a man letting off 10 shots from a 9 millimeter, I don't ever want to hear any of y'all say you're strong. You're not strong. You're traumatized. But I'm gonna get in that. I'm gonna get into that in a little bit. I am going to get into that in a little bit. Let's go on to the next video. All right. Y'all just need to hold that for a second. Let's go on to the next video. Strong. I ain't strong. I ain't strong. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. Where's my other video? Where's my other video? Strong. We not strong. We not strong. Not at all. Okay, here we go.
Out front now, Jessie Wilczewski. She witnessed the shooting at the Chesapeake Walmart. In fact, she's working there. It was just her 5th day on the job. Jessie, thank you for being with us tonight. I know this is tough. You were in that break room when the gunman came in. You saw a lot.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through, Jessie, what you saw and what happened in those moments?
Before every shift, we have a meeting in the break room right at 10 o'clock, and mostly everybody was in there, and the meeting just started, and all of a sudden, I looked straight instead of looking off where the other guy was talking, and the other team lead is in the doorway, and his hands like that. And at first, it didn't even look real. It didn't register as real. The only thing that made it real was the vibrations hitting your chest and the ringing from the gun going off. And it just kept going and going. And I got under the table, and he left the room and went and left down the hallway. And I was looking at my other coworkers around me on the floor and leaned over in a chair. And I didn't want to be loud. I didn't want him to hear me and make him mad and make him come back, because I don't even know where he went. And I didn't leave. I stayed. I wouldn't want to be left alone, even if they weren't there, or if they were there, I don't even know. I tried really hard not to look. And the sound of the droplets. It replays and replays and replays and replays and replays of how much blood was coming off the different chairs. It was making a rhythm, and it was one of the most disturbing things. I think we'll never let go of that.
I mean, it's understandable. It's so you're under the table then for safety. You talk about feeling the bullets as the shots rang out, feeling that in your chest.
Let me stop for just a second. Let me stop for just a second. I want y'all to sit on that for just a second. Just a second. Yes, Toy. Absolutely, Toy. You see how descriptive it is for her? Very descriptive. The droplets, drip, 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 that just kept going as it was coming. The blood was coming off the different chairs. That's a sound I will never forget. She's processing. Thank you, Lisa. She's processing what she's been hearing, what she witnessed. There was somewhere where her language was a little bit incoherent. I couldn't quite capture what she was talking about. I had to listen to it a number of times for me to try to string along her thought process. But, you know, I would say that that's appropriate, right? Because it's going to be things you're going to remember, things are going to be gone, things you're going to remember. So I can see how she's trying to string along her thoughts. But look at her emotional response. Look at her emotional response. You caught that? You caught that? So we can automatically sympathize with her. We can automatically, to a degree, relate to her. We can automatically be empathic with her regarding what she had to experience. We can automatically just imagine what she went through. Right? Right? Just really think about that. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Just hold on to that. Just think about that for a second.
Chest, hearing the blood from your coworkers.
And I walked out the double doors. Probably looked like a chihuahua at that point. And I had my bag, and I put my bag out first as like a please, I don't have anything. You see my hands type thing. And I slid out under the from out underneath of the table, and I'm shaking, and I probably looked like a chihuahua at that point. And you just had the gun up to my forehead, and this is really hard.
Did he say anything to you in that moment, Jessie?
He told me to go home. And he took the gun away from my forehead. He was aiming it at the ceiling, and he said, Jessie, go home. And I got up real slow, and I tried not to look at everybody on the ground or even look. And I had to touch the door, which was covered. And I walked out the double doors to where you can see the aisles of Walmart. And I made it right to where the egg aisle starts. And I just remember gripping my bag and thinking, if he's going to shoot me in the back, well, he's going to have to try really hard because I'm running. And I booked it. And I didn't stop until I got to my car. And then I had a meltdown in my car.
I think it would be hard not to in that moment. This is all still so raw, understandably. And I know that in addition to what you saw and what you went through, you also knew at least 2 of the victims. And one of the reasons that you wanted to talk with me tonight was because you want their families to know something. You have a message for them. What do you want their families to know, Jesse?
For the 2 girls' families that were sitting in front of me, and I'm not going to name any names, but I want to let you know I could have ran out that door with everybody else that ran out that door, and I stayed. I stayed so I wouldn't be alone. And the last moments, because I knew there was no way. As bad as everything was, there was no way. And I stayed. Just so I wouldn't be alone.
And they weren't. You were there. There's been a lot of talk about this person who was your manager. I know this was only your 5th day there, and you didn't interact with him a lot. But was there anything that stood out to you, anything in those interactions where you could have imagined a scenario like this?
No. I interacted with him one time before this, and it was me bringing up my kid. How much this overnight thing is like, really kind of toying with me in some hours. Like, when I look at the clock, and I'm like, man, I just want to get home. And he asked me how old my kid was, and I told him 15 months, and he said a cute age. And we walked our separate ways. Never, ever in my life would I ever wish this upon anybody, and it's horrible because.
Okay. Y'all caught that? Y'all caught that? Somebody said how he knew her name. He knew her name because he was a manager, right? He was a manager there and they worked the same shift. That's how he knew her name, right? So I want y'all to just hold on that for a second because these are 2 traumatized people. One, the world, whether they are informed about trauma or they're uninformed with respects to trauma and what trauma is, they will see her as traumatized automatically. But when it comes to the Black woman, what will they see her as? Strong, perhaps? Desensitized, perhaps? Even though the Black woman's response is also a trauma response. It is also a trauma response. So let's talk about the shooter before we get into these women. Because I know everyone talks about the women, but let's talk about the woman, right? Andre Bing, Bing. Andre Bing. So allegedly, this man left a homicide, and I'm gonna say a homicide note. He did take his own life as a result of this incident. And people may say a suicide note. Some people might say a manifesto. I'm gonna say a homicide note. I think it'll be a lot easier if people that go off the edge and do things like that. They just leave us homicide notes, right? So we can have an understanding of what was going on. Just leave us some homicide notes. He left a homicide note. And in his note, he talked about God. I'm going somewhere with this, y'all, so don't get in your bag. He's talking about God. He's talking about the Holy Spirit. He talked about his associates mocking him, having evil, twisted grins as they're staring at him. He talked about how his associates celebrated his downfall even to that day. He talked about his associates are now going to suffer his same fate of falling, He named some people in the notes, and I would have you realize that the people he named in his homicide note, none of them were the victims that he shot, right? But he named the people in his homicide note that he was going to get. And he also talked about, you know, just how he felt about the employees there, right? Somebody said, "What's a homicide note?" I told you I'm calling it a homicide note because mainstream media and others would say a suicide note, but he went in there and he killed people before he took his own life. So I'm going to say, if you want to call it a homicide / a suicide note, you can, but it's a homicide note. That's what you did. You knew you was going to go in there. You knew you was going to shoot people up. You purchased a gun that morning for that event. It's a homicide note. You letting us know why you killed all these people, right? And no, they called it a manifesto. Those are all their names. I'm going to call it what it is. I am going to call it what it is. People will talk about he left the manifesto. All right, whatever. You want to call it a manifesto, say whatever you want. And he left a homicide note on his phone. This man had no criminal history. And even law enforcement in Virginia said they could not find anything on him. He had his money right. And I know he had his money right. I'm gonna tell you why he had his money right. Not only did he purchase a 9mm. Now I don't know how much 9mm cost in Virginia, but you know my house is armed, right? I'm armed and dangerous. So you know millimeters, depending on what you have, you can have a Glock, you can have a Smith and Wesson, whatever the case is. They can run you $600, $700 easily, depending on the type of 9mm you buy. They can be $600, $700 easily. So I'm just gonna put the lower end, like about $400, and the higher end can go up to $1,000. It really depends, but the average can be $600 easily. This man purchased this gun. He also, listen to this, y'all. He also had his own house that he purchased in 2019. So that was before COVID, right? He purchased his own house where he had a 3-bedroom house on Eva Boulevard. He lived alone. I don't know if he had any children, but that's not reported that he had any children. It's not even reported that he was married. He lived alone. He maintained his house. His lawn, according to the neighbors, was immaculate. They said his lawn was gorgeous. So he took pride in his home, and nobody in the community really knew about him. Very few people spoke to him, not because they thought anything odd about the man. They didn't think anything odd about him, but because he was really a loner. He really just stood to himself, right? This man had no social media accounts. No one can find anything on him. He reported that his mother and his sister died from COVID up in New York. Right. So if that's all he had, and I don't know if it's true or not, but if his mother and sister is all he had, then he pretty much was alone. Not only was he a loner at work, how they described him, but in life to himself. But here's the thing. According to his associates, he allegedly made chilling threats, saying if he ever got fired, he's going to have revenge. He said people will remember him. They will remember him if he gets fired. They described him as being somebody who was condescending and mean. They described him as somebody who was paranoid, somebody who kept black tape. Listen to me, y'all. Black tape over the camera of his phone. And he believed the government, the government was watching him. Sounds like paranoia, right? Shout out to T. James. Thank you so much, right? And no person or law enforcement could have saw this coming. Absolutely not. And no one is saying we could have saw this coming. Absolutely not. No one is communicating that tonight. I think a lot of people are asleep. And I say it on this channel all the time. A lot of people are sleepwalking. They're walking through the streets of America because they think America is not Afghanistan. They think nothing's going to happen in America. And it happens every day. Mass shootings happen way more than what they report. And if you only knew how often these shootings happen, you'll be a lot scared. You'll be a lot more scared than what you are. So let's get back to this guy. That's how they said. Now, I bring that up because the paranoia, putting the tape over the camera of his phone, believing people had evil grins toward him. Everybody was talking about him, which could have been true. It may not have been true. Who knows, right? But all these thoughts that he had is consistent with somebody. And I'm not saying he has a personality disorder. I'm saying it is consistent with somebody who's in a cluster A personality disorder. Cluster A would be paranoid, schizoids, right? Those are the people that fall in those categories. Hearing voices, believing things, acting in weird ways, socially inept, loners, not trusting people, no social circle, no network. Why am I saying that to y'all before I go ahead and get on to these people about cluster A personalities? I come across a lot of cluster A personality people. I absolutely do. Some could be in our families, some could be in our neighborhoods, our communities, our jobs. And we write this stuff off. We write it off. We say stuff like, she's weird, he's weird. We disregard some of these things. I'm not saying we all do that, but I'm telling you, you got to understand. How do I say this? How do I say this? There's a lot of people with no social media. I'm not saying that this person here, I'm not saying if they don't have social media, something is wrong with them. No, I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm saying you have to look at everything and put everything together. And now, in hindsight, being 2020, it makes sense. It makes sense. But what I'm saying to you all is how many times do we after the fact say, yeah, that person was a little off. That person did do, weird things. How many times do we do things like that after the fact? How many times do we ignore these things, even in our own community? Forget about a mass shooting for just a second. There's so many of us that would say, ignore him, ignore her. They just be wilding out, just ignore them. There's a lot of us that would say things like that. And I am in no way communicating that if somebody presents that way, they're going to shoot up a store. I am in no way communicating that. I'm saying everything requires us to make ongoing assessments every day. Everything requires us to be in our P's and Q's. Everything requires us to look at the world quite differently. Because, if you let society tell you nowadays, you're not supposed to look at anybody like that. Society tells you nowadays that everything is peachy cream. Everybody's good. Don't look at people like that. Don't say nothing. That's discriminatory. That's what society says every day, every day, every day, every day. And we walk around and everyone is trying to go along with what society says that you should not think and how you should not be and what you cannot say and what you should not say. This is what we're all thinking. And we don't want to label anyone because labeling has a negative connotation attached to it. We don't want to judge anybody. We don't want to speak negatively about anybody. We just want to be quiet. We don't want to say anything. Right? We don't want to say anything anymore. And you don't have to. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you cannot be aware. Somebody said here, you don't get to be a manager without social skills. That's not true. Why do you say that? Let me ask you, why do you say that? See, and the reason why I say this is because to me, that's a very comfortable statement. That's a major assumption. You don't get to become a manager without social skills. Why not? Why can you not be a manager in Walmart without social skills? Right? I'm asking you that because you see, when we say things like that, we're automatically assuming the people that we're engaging with, they're critical in their thought process, they're managing their emotions well. Why do we automatically say something like that? We make all these, and that's the point that I'm saying. I love when y'all do things like this because y'all just prove my point. That's exactly what I'm saying. We get comfortable putting people in these boxes, and then we have these assumptions that people are going to be a certain kind of way because of their title, because of their education, because of their skin color, because of their size, because of their wealth. We automatically put people in these categories, and we assume that people are supposed to be a certain kind of way. And that's why so many of us let our guards down, because we like to have these profiles of people, and we make all these assumptions about people. And I don't think that's healthy. I mean, you do what you want to do, but I don't think that's healthy that we do things like that. Right? That's right. No one is safe. No one is safe. And why do we have this whole mindset? And I agree with you, TK. Why do we have this mindset that we feel like, oh, you can't judge anybody? Judgments actually do keep us safe. Now, are there some toxic judgments? Absolutely. Are there some stereotypical judgments? Absolutely. Yeah, those things happen, right? But just because you don't speak them out of your mouth, now I'm just gonna be somebody who's gonna be real with y'all, because a lot of y'all like to come up, not in this community because we're dope in this community, right? But a lot of people, let's just say a lot of people like to assume that when they say, "Oh, don't be so judgmental," you don't have judgmental thoughts. See, I don't like fake people. I really do not like fake people. We will have judgments. We will have bias. Why do we pretend like no one has those things? And if you're walking around like, no, I'm not going to pay attention, everyone is just different. It's just his personality. So what if he says, if I get fired, you're going to remember me? That doesn't mean anything. There's no way on God's green earth I'm keeping that mindset. Because if you say something like that, I'm going to believe you. I'm just trying to tell you, you say something like that, if I get fired, I promise you, y'all all going to remember me. I'm going to believe you. I am not going to dismiss that. Deborah says, I just tuned in. Dr. Shonna, do you think that when the coworker turned the camera on him, I think she was on Facebook, that triggered him? I don't know. There's no telling what triggered him. I don't know what triggered him. And to be honest with you, he probably was triggered way before a camera got turned on him. If this person is having these conversations with God, having these conversations with the Holy Spirit, thinking that the government is watching him, putting tape over his camera of his phone, if he's doing all these things, see, for you all, and I see some of the comments here, right? But you are saying there's nothing wrong with that. I have a conversation with God too. Oh, I put tape over my phone too. Somebody said Mark Zuckerberg puts tape over his phone too. See, you got to understand, people in my field, we don't dismiss stuff like that, because research is about getting a collection of people and analyzing the statements that people make, the things that they report, whether it's self-report, whether it's through our own observations, collecting that data, analyzing it, breaking it down, categorizing it, so we can say, okay, this is what we're dealing with. You cannot come into our office and have those kind of conversations and we don't start categorizing things. I'm not going to sit down and pretend like that's a-okay conversation. I'm not going to do it. I think it's a difference between somebody having spiritual talk and somebody making statements that God is talking to them and all these other things. If y'all never been around somebody who has a cluster A personality, or if you've never been around somebody who's like a schizophrenic or a schizoaffective person, if you've never been around a person like that, you don't understand how bizarre these conversations are. I'm trying to tell you guys, for your own well-being, stop diminishing these things. Stop normalizing these things. You don't have to talk it out loud. You don't have to talk it out loud, but it's okay to hold the thought. You're human. It's okay to process that thought. Right? But listen, put tape over your phone. That's okay. Do what you want to do. But if you start putting tape over your phone and you're having other conversations that are far left and people are looking at you through the corner of their eye, okay. If you're normal, then it's okay. It's okay. But I'm not gonna look at you as okay. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm not going to look at you as okay. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying I'm paying attention because I don't know you and I don't know what you're capable of. So I'm not going to automatically assume that it's peachy cream. I'm sorry, I'm not. If you do that, that's cool. I'm not. It doesn't mean I'm going to say something to you that's going to be reckless. It doesn't mean I'm going to treat you in a manner that's inhumane. It doesn't mean that. I'm making notes here. I'm making notes. And so I'm saying to you all that these things are occurring so often, all the time, despite the media coverage, despite the information, despite the knowledge that we have. It's occurring over and over and over again. I'm just suggesting perhaps we move a little differently. Perhaps we start leaving our house already on heightened alert. But remember the last time I said that, y'all? Y'all can go back and watch the video. You remember the last time I said that? And I don't even think it was on a Mental Health Friday. I think it was on a What the F Wednesday when I said it. Somebody said, I'm not going to leave my house in fear. No one is telling you to leave your house in fear, but that mindset right there, get your ass caught up. Is that see, some people, you know what it reminds me of? Now, y'all know I like the stories, the fables and stuff, the stories, because I could see these stories in the basic instructions before leaving Earth, i.e. Bible. I could see these stories play out every day, and they're very interesting. It's very interesting to watch humans, right? It's very interesting for me. But you know the story. Everyone knows the story of Noah's Ark, right? Everyone knows that story. You could be an atheist and you know that story. You could be a non-believer and you know that story, right? You could be a Muslim and you know that story. You could be whoever. You could be a Buddhist and you know that. Everybody knows that story. How everyone thought that Noah was crazy, right? Everyone was like, "Oh man, it's crazy. He's building an ark. The hell is wrong with him?" Then the flood came, right? Then the flood came. I'm trying to be your Noah. You understand what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to let you guys know these are the things you ought to be looking at because nothing is new under the sun. And if it happened once, it's going to happen again. And you need to be alert and you need to be aware. But anytime I say that, people get in their bag. You start getting all emotional and stuff. Why are you getting emotional? Maybe you should just have in the back of your head, maybe I should take a note and put a pin in that. And when I leave, I'll just, be a little bit more vigilant. That's all I'm saying. Let's go on to this anchor man and this anchor woman and this lady, and I'm out of here, okay? Let's go on. So you have not Dr. Shonna's arc. I'm talking about Dr. Shonna's arc. I'm trying to tell y'all something. I'm trying to help y'all get on the arc. Your own arc, not my arc, because I don't want you on my arc. My arc comes armed. I want y'all to be on your arc to get you and your family to safety. That's what I want y'all to do, right? Be on your arc. Be on your P's and Q's. That's it. So let's talk about this anchor man and this anchor woman. Now, y'all saw the difference. Y'all saw the difference in this interview, right? One is compassionate. One is like, take your time. It's empathetic. It's supportive. Take your time. To one of the survivors, right? One of the survivors, I could also say victim, right? To some degree, she's a victim of vicarious trauma and trauma, direct trauma, right? She's suffering from both. But take your time. Take your time. Tell the story. That must have been hard. And the other one was a full-fledged interview. It was just regular conversation with the other one. It was crazy to me. It was regular conversation. The guy is saying to the melanated woman, he said, must be terrifying, unimaginable How did you keep yourself safe? And that's the million dollar question. She went right into survival mode, right into describing the incident, not about how it made her feel, how I got myself out of there. I said, oh, this is real. And I saw the blood and I said, you better run. You better run or you're not going to be alive. And I ran. And it said almost with a flat affect, almost. It said with no emotional responses such as tearing, such as, shaking, such as, any type of visible responses like that shows distress. It was like a regular conversation. Somebody said, I'm so glad I'm retired. What does that mean? You don't go shopping at Walmart or the supermarket. You don't go outside. You don't go to movie theaters. You don't go to parks, family events, church. I don't understand what that means. You being retired, what does that mean? Because you're retired, you're not going to be caught up in a mass shooting. I'm asking the question because I really don't understand. So when you can, just let me know what that means because I don't want to make any assumptions that I know what you're talking about. Because whether you're tired or working, you can still get shot up. So I'm not sure if I fully understand. But anyway, the young lady, she's speaking through her flat affect because you could tell she's in a state of shock. She's in a state of shock. But I don't think that anchor man was looking at her as though this is shock and this is trauma. He was looking at her like, wow, this is her response to something so traumatic. That's the kind of energy I got from him. And I don't think that it showed the empathy toward her that I think she deserved. Right? I don't think it did. It was more, I don't know. I just didn't like the interview. Maybe you guys were okay with it, and that's all right. I wasn't okay with the interview, especially when you take that interview and you match it up against the other interview where the woman is all crying and the anchor woman is showing empathy. And I'm wondering, like, do you have to cry in order to get empathy? Do you have to appear fearful and tearful in order for someone to listen to you and show compassion toward you? I don't think the other guy was, I don't think he was hard on her, but I don't think it was empathic. I think it was more like, let me get this information out from you regarding the shooter so we can move on. That's how I took it. Now the other girl that was being interviewed by the female anchor woman, she's tearful. She's visibly shaken up. She looks like she's traumatized. Not like the other one wasn't, she is, but the average person may not actually know or see it as trauma, right? But they both said the same thing in their stories. They both said when it first happened, they didn't know it was real. They both said when it first happened, they paused. When it both happened, they both said that they did something to secure their safety. One person ran out the room and kept going, and then the other person ran under the table or got under the table. Right? They both had the same type of verbal responses. The shooting, the sounds of the gun, one was more descriptive than the other, but they both had the same verbal responses. The only difference is one person was displaying her emotions, her raw emotions, such as her tearing, her fearfulness, her distress, where she's doing all of this. She had clear distress, what was happening to her psychologically. And then the other one, obviously shocked, but you couldn't really see it. But it doesn't mean it wasn't there. So I want to get into that right now that I'm out of here. You couldn't really see it, but here's the thing. The melanated sister said immediately that she was going to be okay. I told y'all, sisters and brothers, I want y'all to stop doing that. Don't immediately say you're going to be okay. Don't minimize your trauma. Don't minimize your pain. Don't minimize your emotions. You have to understand where that comes from. This is something that has been passed down to us from generation to generation to generation depending on how many generations you've been here in this country. For me, 5 generations in, this has been passed down for a very long time because it was about survival. Being strong, ladies. I'm talking to the ladies for just a second. Being strong, this strong Black woman, which I hate that term with a passion. I hate that term with a passion. But being that strong Black woman, beloved, is a trauma response. It's a trauma response. I want you to sit on that for just a second. A trauma response. It is all about survival. Being a strong Black woman is all about survival. It was applicable 400 years ago. It was applicable 300 years ago. It was applicable 200 years ago. It was applicable last week. That's a joke. Okay, calm down. But I want you to stop doing that. I want you to stop doing that because we historically are not taught to show our emotions. Historically, we are not taught to process our feelings, to process our emotions. Historically, we're not taught to express our emotions. I want you all to be comfortable being human. I want you all to be comfortable normalizing your emotional responses. Be comfortable with it. Allow yourself to feel because that transfers over from generation to generation. It transfers over from experience to experience. It transfers over from relationship to relationship. I want you ladies to allow yourself to feel. When you go through something adverse, when you go through something traumatic, allow yourself to feel it because it will show up in your relationships. Not only your romantic relationships, but the relationships at work, the relationships with your friends, the relationships you have with your children. It will show up. This sister is 28 years old with a 4-year-old child. There's gotta be an emotion in there that was fearful, scared, everything that was going to bring up the tears, that's going to bring up the pain, the hurt, is going to be there. You have to be able to express your emotions in healthy ways because it is a healing process. Our community is so stuck in a state of arousal. We don't even realize that we're not supposed to be stuck in survival mode. We are aroused every day with respect to our safety. We are stuck in a survival mode. And that is not the norm because it will cause you to become desensitized. It will cause you to be less responsive. Feel these emotions. Our emotions are eternal, people. It's internal. Not eternal, I meant to say internal. Our emotions are internal. That means it comes from the inside of us. And we have to learn how to express it on the outside. We have to learn it's okay to take a break. Even if you are on TV, don't worry about somebody seeing you cry. Don't say, oh, they might see me as weak. It's okay. My partner asked me, he said, how would you have responded if the news people were recording you? I said, the news people won't be recording me. They won't be. He said, but if they were, but they won't be. Because I'm not going to have no running tape of somebody being able to sit back and analyze my response and then telling me whether or not my lawsuit is valid or whether I'm only worth $1,000. Meanwhile, crybaby gets $400,000, or I'm only worth 50 cents. Meanwhile, the other person walks away with $1 million. No, you're not recording me. You are not recording me. No, absolutely not. I am a crybaby. Absolutely not. The only thing the camera's going to see me is crying and my head down. And if I have on a hood, something over my hood, that's the only thing the camera's going to see me. The camera's only going to see me holding on to my partner. That's all the camera's going to see me doing. You're not going to see me doing anything. You knock at my door, you're going to get somebody else is going to come to the door and is going to say, we just want you to pray for our family. We're not in any condition to speak. We thank you all for your love and support. Just keep us in prayer. Thank you. Door closed. That's right, Miss Helena. Inconsolable. There's nothing you can do. I am not going to be on the news, sitting poised and talking about a traumatic experience. Oh, no, baby. I process my emotions. Oh, no, baby. I want to be able to tell you, we need to feel and we need to demonstrate our emotions. We absolutely need to do that. A trauma response is human. Crying is human. Being hurt is human. Being afraid is human. Being sad is human. Being depressed is human. Being unhappy is human. Being whatever, anxious is human. Please, sisters, you could be strong. I get it. I understand it. But take that cape off. Take that cape off. What is it going to cost you to take the cape off and express and experience your human emotions? What's going to happen if you do that? Do you know how many people I have that will come into session with me and they want to go on and on and on about all the pain and the hurt that people have done to them and how angry they are, and they're going to cut this person off. They ain't talking about this, and the whole entire time until I stop them, they're not talking about their emotions. They're not talking about how they feel. They're not telling me where they feel it at. They're not telling me anything until I stop them. And do you know, when I stop them and I make them think, the minute they start hearing themselves identify their emotions and their feelings, they stop and they go right back to blaming the other person. They go right back to pointing out the behaviors of the other person. They go right back to want to understand why the other person don't change. It is scary to sit in your discomfort and to deal with what you are experiencing, but it's also human to do that. And as long as we stop doing it and we get on camera and we show this image like nothing bothers us, the more we're going to continue to experience the kind of reactions and engagements that we have from those in the world that seek to believe what they want to believe when dealing with us, like medical apartheid, right? The history with thinking we don't feel pain. The history with ignoring our pain responses. Because the way we say it to them in their ears doesn't look like pain. Because we're not groaning, we're not crying, we're strong. I'm not going to be strong. I'm going to be like Jesse. I'm going to give you a dramatic recall of the event. I am going to be tearful. I am going to speak about my fear. I'm going to let you know I can't eat. I'm going to let you know I can't sleep. I'm telling you that. I'm going to sit up there and I'm going to be so visibly shaken and scared. I am. I absolutely am. So let's get into these strategies and I'm out, family, right? Somebody said, I would too. Yes, I'm trying to tell you, right? Right. Yeah, they do. They ignore our pain anyway. We have to respond better to one another's existence. We do. We do. But let me tell you something. You ain't going to write a note in your chart that I was flat affect. Because let me tell you, baby, in this field, where my nurses at? Come on now. I'm just trying to tell y'all. We know I'm in the medical field. We know how it gets down, y'all. I'm trying to tell y'all. We will write flat affect, trauma response not visibly present. If it's a quick assessment, if you don't say something, we don't know. Right? We're gonna see if what you're reporting match up with the emotions and the mood. That's what we're gonna do. I'm letting y'all know right now. See, those in my field, we're gonna take it a step further because we know, or we should know, is what I should say. We should know to go deeper because we should know that now everyone processes their emotions the same way. But in the medical field, they ain't gonna know that. Law enforcement probably ain't gonna know that. Teachers probably ain't gonna know that. I'm just trying to tell y'all. No, my affect will not be flat. It's gonna say affect tearful. I'm gonna make sure I got a snotty tissue. I'm gonna be wiping the snot out my nose. I see a lot of clients do this, right? So I'm telling you, I'm gonna be wiping the snot out my nose and then taking that same snotty behind tissue and wipe my eyes. I'm just gonna be all over the place. I'm gonna be all over the place, right? So here's the thing. Here's what Officer Stedman wants y'all to know. He said to let your audience know these 4 things. Number 1, you're never going to know if you're going to be a victim. So don't walk around here thinking that it ain't going to happen to you. You cannot tell whether or not you're going to be a victim. So if you leave your house with the mindset that you can potentially become a victim, you'll stay more vigilant. You'll stay more alert and more aware. So he's saying, tell them to make sure they leave their house with that mindset. When you leave that house, don't assume you'll be coming back home. The idea is to get back home, but don't assume you're going to be coming back home. Because when you have that assumption, you are more likely to begin to let your guard down. And we don't want you to do that. We don't want you to let your guard down. Don't ever become comfortable. That was number 2. Despite the news, despite it happening in Virginia, but you live in Georgia, despite it happening in Texas, but you live in New York, never ever get comfortable. Not in the hood, not in the suburbs, not in Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, not in Walmart, not in C-Town, not in Food Town, not in Piggly Wiggly. Don't ever get comfortable. Because you can be a victim at any time. Number 3, anytime you leave your house, you need to have a strategy. So what is your strategy, family? What is your strategy? Anytime you leave your house, you have to leave your strategy. You have a strategy. So like Officer 7 says, you leave in pairs if you can. If you can go in pairs, go in pairs. Don't go by yourself, because he said 2 sets of eyes are better than 1 set at all times. 2 sets of ears is better than 1 set at all times. While somebody is checking out, because now on Walmart is those self-checkouts now. I don't know about where you guys are at, but they done fired everybody, baby. That's a whole nother conversation we can have at another time. They done fired everybody. Now you checking out your own stuff. You could check out something that costs $400 for $2 because ain't nobody watching you, baby. Don't do it. That's called stealing. But I'm just telling you, it's bad. It's bad. I know they must losing money. It is bad in Walmart. But if you in there, you already know you just trying to get out of there and you by yourself. You may not be hearing the commotion, or you might be trained to ignore the commotion. You might look around, ignore the commotion, and keep on checking out. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure you have somebody there with you if you can. So as you checking out, that person should be scanning the exits/entrances. They should be scanning the people around them, behind them. They should be paying attention. And y'all should always know. Y'all should always know that something can pop off at any given time. And that's why you should know your entries into the store as well as your exits. Even if you go into the back of the store, you want to know where the back exits are. You might have to go through an employee's part to get out of there. Somebody said, "Yep, I inadvertently took 4 bags of chips." I'm just trying to tell you, Walmart is terrible now. I said, "Damn, they must be losing a lot of money in here." Joker's gonna be ringing up Pampers for 4.99. They're gonna be ringing up Pampers as formula. It's crazy over here, right? They're gonna be bringing a bootleg pack of Pampers with the expensive pack of Pampers, ring up the bootleg ones, and put the expensive ones in the car and put the bootleg ones on the floor. That's what they're gonna be doing. It's crazy up in Walmart nowadays. There ain't no security in Walmart. Walmart is crazy. All these fights we see out of Walmart, all these shootings we see out, you would think Walmart would start stepping up security. But that's a whole nother conversation. Last but not least, don't have tunnel vision. Don't have see, a lot of us we have tunnel vision. We walk like this. We don't keep our heads on swivel. We like to say we keep our heads on swivel. No, you don't. You just walking. See, when you get out your car, it should look like this, which brings me to the other one. Always be armed in some form of fashion. I know y'all don't like the way this sound because some of y'all just holier than thou. Always be armed in some type of fashion. I don't care if you have mace. I don't care if you have a little pocket knife. I don't care if you have a baton. They got those expandable ones when you hit it, boom, and it comes out. I don't. You always be armed in some kind of fashion. When you walk out of your store, you should have your little mace in one pocket, so you can just put your hand in the pocket and you better have the real powerful mace. Don't buy the bootleg one from Rite Aid, right? You better or Walgreens. You better have the real powerful one. You can only get it from one of those kind of stores like military stores or something like that. You know what I'm saying? You got to be armed and ready. Now that's not going to stop you from a shooter. So I don't want you to think your mace is going to do something big. But people getting jumped out here in these streets. It might stop you from that or at least give you enough time for you to run away, right? You better have something. Shoot, listen, some people need to go outside with bulletproof vests. They sell them suckers too. Get yourself 500, 600, $700. Get yourself a vest. I'm just trying to say, I know y'all don't want to hear it, but America is terrible. And if they're not going to save us, you got to do something to save you. I'm just trying to tell y'all don't want to hear it because it sounds bizarre, right? It sounds like we are in the Middle East, right? It sounds terrible. But America has gotten terrible. We are living in a lawless country. And I know that's probably hard for a lot of people to hear it, but we are living in a lawless country. And many of us are walking out here unprepared. We're just walking out here in la la land, acting like everything is peachy cream. Somebody said I carry an extension cord. Baby, I have to stop the conversation for just a second. Abel, what you gonna do with an extension cord besides jump double dutch? Abel, what you doing? Abel, you gotta talk to me, Abel, because you might teach me something I don't know. Abel, Abel, what you doing with an extension cord, baby? I ain't never hear that one. But I'll tell you one thing. Ladies, here's another one for y'all. Well, guys too. But if you run into the bathroom, ladies, and you know how you close the door, and the door has that thing that sits at the top, and it's like it comes out. It's like I don't know what it's called, right? But it expands out when the door's open, and it goes like back in a V shape when it's closed. It's the metal thing at the top of the door. If you take your belt and you tie it around that, you can't open the door. So you can take your ass and lock yourself in a bathroom, baby. You can take and tie up that door. Make sure you get that door tight and high because it's going to take the hinge. Somebody said the hinge. It's going to take a long time to get up in that bathroom, baby. If you put the belt around that, I bet y'all ain't know that. I bet y'all know. Abel responded. The Abel tell me somebody said cord sting and choke. I mean, I guess he is whipping somebody with his Zorro ass. That's what I'm talking about, Abel. Go ahead now. He gonna be whipping people like nunchucks. I'm just woo. Go ahead, Abel, with that extension cord. You must be related to my mama. That was her belt. Woo, good lord. He said an extension cord. I don't know how long it's gonna take you to get that extension cord out of your bag, Abel. Somebody said, were they all black? No, all the victims were not black, so Sir Jig. All the victims were not black. They were white victims and they were black victims. Um, shoot, extension cords. Okay, Abel said extension cords hurt like hell and they're legal in all states. I remember I remember the whoopings my mom gave me. Woo, Abel, we must be related. Abel, I needed that laugh. And not because you're funny, Abel. I mean, you're funny, but I don't think you know how funny you are. But not because you're funny, but I needed that laugh. But baby, where you gonna hide that extension cord at? You gonna wrap that shit up and put it? Abel, you carrying a bag? I don't know. I don't. Abel, you took me out, Abel. I gotta end this live now. I can't even tell y'all what I was gonna tell y'all. I gotta end this because he took me out, baby. I got no more for him. He said an extension cord because it hurts like hell. He right about that one. But oh, maybe Abel, you know how to work that shit. He's gonna take the gun out the person's hand. He's just gonna hit it, take the gun out his hand. He's gonna start whoop whoop. That's what I'm baby. Somebody said Django. He's gonna wear that extension cord like a belt. I love y'all. Y'all so funny, but I'm just Abel took me out with that one. I don't know what to say anymore. Woo, ooh, 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 ooh. Lord, he said an extension cord. I'm done. Abel, I ain't got no. You just messed up my night, Abel. I ain't got nothing else for you. You know, my partner, we're gonna laugh about this shit all night. He over here laughing right now. He said an extension cord. I'm done. But listen, family, I end by saying thank you. And I want you to take therapy seriously. Take therapy seriously like it's your regular doctor's appointment. Don't sleep on therapy. I know a lot of y'all sleeping on therapy, but a lot of y'all got stuff to get. I know we always talking about the people who are potential victims or who may become a victim, you know. I'm just trying to say this to you guys. Some of us in this chat, and we never talk to the people that I'm about to identify, but some of us in this chat may be going through something. Some people really are going through some hard times, and you just never know what somebody's going to go through. You never know how somebody's going to respond. Go to therapy. Go to therapy. If you don't like your job and you just want somebody to vent to, it's not your friends, it's not your family, it's not your partner, go to therapy. Vent to your therapist. If you feel like you're not where you want to be in life and you feel that you're stuck or you feel like everyone's passing you by, go to therapy. If you feel like you ain't got no man, you ain't got no woman, you ain't got no family, you're all alone, you feel by yourself, you feel nobody understand you, go to therapy. If you feel like you got rage and you just can't get the rage out, go to therapy. If you hearing voices and you're not sure it's God or it's yourself, go to therapy. You understand what I'm trying to say? Go to therapy. You can use therapy for anything. If you don't like your job, you want to change your career, go to therapy. If you feel you overweight and you feel you underweight, go to therapy. You can go to therapy for anything. And I'm just saying, people in this chat are going through something. Not everybody. Somebody said, ask Santa. See, y'all think this is a game until your ass gets shot up. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to say, people actually need help, and we telling them to go to Santa. That's the craziest shit to me. Like that's not a game. That's not a joke. And see, and the thing that's so crazy for me, it happens so often in our community. We diminish therapy, right? We speak negatively about it, but we're hurting people. We're here. Thank you, Empress. Empress said, if you are on here trolling, go to therapy. And that is so true. Somebody said Michi's in the chat. I didn't see my sister. Sis, I'm calling you as soon as I get off. As soon as I get off, I'm calling you. Because I know we have to start planning for the Black Agenda tour. We're going to be back on tour, guys. So I will be calling you, Michi, if you're in the chat. And I didn't see, but I know she's a moderator. So I didn't see, but she says anything to me. I know she's in the chat. But go to therapy. Go to therapy. And especially the trolls. And here's why I'm going to say the trolls. Because sometimes I get messages from the trolls in my chat or in my email, and they be the most bizarre things ever. Like anybody can read it, and anyone can see how like off some people are. I don't respond to trolls. Now, sometimes I cuss y'all out because y'all deserve to get cussed out, right? But I'm just saying, like these people, these are people who are hurting, and like I always tell y'all, If you don't like what you're hearing, you don't have to stay on somebody's channel. To stay on somebody's channel where you feel what you're hearing is hurtful to you, go to therapy. Because you got to start to ask yourself, why'd you stay? Why are you staying and listening? Why are you arguing with somebody you don't know? Why are you going back and forth with people you don't know? Why are you even engaging in those kind of behaviors in your saying? Like, I don't know. How many of y'all engage and argue with people in the chat? I don't argue with people in the chat. If I don't agree with something, I keep on scrolling, going to the next page. It's no big deal. I don't have to say something. But so many of y'all start picking arguments and fights and whew, I stop and I say, what's wrong with y'all? So you want to go to therapy, just start out with, depending on what you want to do a good Google search. If you want a black therapist, just say therapy for black girls or black women. Put that in the Google search. It'll give you states that you can go to, different sites that have a whole bunch of black therapists. If you don't care what race the therapist is, because anybody who's effective will be able to help you. If you don't care what race the therapist is, you can go ahead to Psychology Today. You'll find all types of different people on Psychology Today. There's so many different search avenues out there. Just go to therapy, baby. Just try it. Just, you got to keep finding once you like the person you find, but just try it. Go to therapy. I love every last one of y'all. Share the video. Share the video. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you are on Facebook, like and follow the channel. And to all my people who have got their orders in, we have a slight delay in the orders. The orders should be coming to you by next week. You should be getting your orders in. For those who don't know what I am talking about, you can go ahead and visit helpingcouplesreconnect.com. Helpingcouplesreconnect.com. Get yourself a massage, or you can do, or some pheromones, and let's bring the love back in our relationships, into our homes, and into our families. Y'all have a blessed night.